reproduction of the urban space and urban form have become two important points in this particular urban policy. And what is very important is that in the name of opening up of the governance, urban governance, what we find is that this opening up has drastically gone to replace the state and the democratic policy-making framework by non-state bodies, by parastatal bodies, which to many of us who are researching on these issues for quite some time, we feel that it has sacrificed the general welfare, it has sacrificed the labor security, and of course it has sacrificed the environmental protection laws in the country. Because I don't know how much you are familiar with Mumbai, but we have huge salt pans in the coastal areas. And these salt pans are actually organic bulwark, for floods or some problems, environmental hazards. And on these salt pans, what types of activities are getting located now? What do we find? Many of the slums which are getting relocated are going to these salt pans, which is extremely dangerous for human habitation to reclaim the salt pan areas and have the settlements there. But the salt pans are all, on the one hand, it is creating a tremendous environmental problem and lots of debates are going on. And on the other hand, the salt pans are all located in the peripheral parts of the city. So you can understand that many of these slums, which were located in the heart of the cities, in different parts of the active economic areas of the cities, are getting relocated in these distant peri-urban locations. In 2005, this NURM, which came up, as I told you, that the major evil that was identified by the mission was very interesting. It was the gap, between urban infrastructure and urban growth. The cities have grown very fast. They are growing very fast in the present time. And the urban infrastructure has not been able to match with this urban growth. Now, what are the causes of the urban growth? These are kept aside. We all know that it is not only rural-urban migration. It is natural birth rate in major cities of India also, which is very high, because a large part of the residents in the Indian major cities are poor. And among these sections, the fertility rate is very high. So it's a combination of high fertility rate among the poor and a very large influx of rural-urban migration. And this has increased. This rural-urban migration has increased since 1967. We have matched the statistics of the census and the nature of rural-urban migration. This was the time when this Green Revolution was introduced in India. This input-based agriculture was introduced in India, and that really enhanced the number of agricultural laborers in the countryside who finally lost the battle and who started coming to the cities. It was mainly intra-regional. It's not that, people from all over India started going to all over India in all the cities. No, not necessarily in that way. Although many of the regionalist parties, in Maharashtra there is one regional party who always feels that it's all the country over, people are coming to Mumbai. But we have proved through our works that it is mainly the districts of Maharashtra which are sending the maximum number of migrants to Mumbai. Not that people from Uttar Pradesh, which partly is poor, Bihar, yes, poor, but the most important state in terms of resource, they are also sending migrants. But my point today is that this particular point, that how the cities are having this fast pace of urban growth, that was not really discussed. What was discussed is that yes, there is a high pace of urban growth and the urban infrastructure is not matching with that. So what we have to do is the government has to really bring in huge infrastructural projects, and for whom? That's the question. The nature of the infrastructural projects, to which I'm coming a little later. Cities covered by the mission have been they are now promised to come out as engines of growth, the typical words which are used for respective urban systems and regional systems. And we have a problem here, that really, are they really becoming engines of growth for the regional systems, for regional development? And the mission aims at developing 63 Indian cities in the first count into world-class sustainable cities. You know, these, some of the words you can't drop nowadays. You know, for example, sustainability. You have to always use that. These have to be sustainable Indian cities, even if you are creating havoc to the environment. Still, you have some postmodern lexicons which are nowadays coming, by which you have to say that yes, livable and sustainable, and you know, services to be distributed, blah blah. So in the 63 Indian cities, the sizes of the Indian cities are very many. They are very big cities. They are class 1 cities with 1 million population, with 5 million population, and there are medium-sized centers also. I mean, I'm not very sure whether you really know some of the names, but yes, you know Ahmedabad. I have talked to some of the colleagues here. They go to Gujarat, so you know Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is a target city now. Although Ahmedabad doesn't sit in the hierarchy of Mumbai or Kolkata or Delhi, but Delhi is the most blue-eyed. 40% of the national urban planning money goes to Delhi. Okay, so still Ahmedabad is very important. Surat has become important, and in Maharashtra, some of the smaller cities have come up. So that, say after 5 years, if I take a field trip with you in these cities, then you will not really understand what is Ahmedabad and what is Mumbai, because you know the vision of making them homogeneous is so very fierce, so very important. There are 2 submissions, very important, very interesting for us to see. There is submission A and submission B in the total mission. Submission A is known as UIG, that is Urban Infrastructure and Governance. Mind it, which accounts for 65% of the total funds, naturally, because that's the main, that's the main solution. This is to be administered, submission A is to be administered by the Ministry of Urban Development. And these are involving projects on roads, transport, associated infrastructure, water supply, sanitation, and beautification. We always say, read gentrification. Submission B, it's all in the total mission, but submission B, which is having 35% of the total funds, this has been earmarked for providing basic services to the urban poor, BSUP, and which is not administered by the same committee or the same body, which is being administered by the Ministry of Urban Employment and Poverty Alleviation. And items like slum improvement, rehabilitation of the displaced, access to basic services and housing projects for urban poor come under this head. These are the 2 submissions. Then I come to the local bodies, urban local bodies. They have to access these funds. Although I was telling you that the reforms have been known as optional, theoretically, but actually in practice they are mandatory. And all urban local bodies need to prove financial stability for accessing these funds. And they have to set up parastatal nodal agencies, very interesting, who will monitor the funds, who will decide whether the urban local bodies, the democratically elected urban local bodies like municipal governments, whether they will get the funds. And in all these, projects, much more importance is being given to the private sector projects than the public-private sector, and definitely not to the public sector projects. This is systematically being done in cities after cities.